They reached the place their demonstration had begun. Both sides clashed in the back streets. This was Sao Paulo. The demonstrations have spread to the whole country, with dozens of cities now involved. It started with a row over increased bus fares, but there's no sense the government's U-turn on that has stopped this momentum. The protests have become much bigger than one issue. Alistair Leathed, BBC News, Rio de Janeiro.
Well, for more on this, let's speak to the journalist Ben Tavener, who's a reporter for the Rio Times. He's been out among protesters and is in our Sao Paulo studio for us now. Ben, explain the situation as you saw it. What was going on the streets?
Last night was a very peaceful, party-like atmosphere in Sao Paulo. I was on Avenida Paulista, which is the main business avenue that goes through the middle of Sao Paulo. What really struck me was that the demands of the protest were so varied. There's a real mishmash of different slogans ranging from everything from transport, which started this whole wave of protests, but actually less of the transport and much more focusing on politics. Many people saying that the political parties in Brazil do not represent them. Other people calling for very specific things like the ousting of President Dilma, to other things like the PEC 37 law that has been tabled, which aims to diminish the powers of the public prosecutor. Another motion that's been tabled called the gay cure, which would allow the treatment of adult homosexuals in Brazil. So there really was a very big mishmash of different types of slogans, but really yesterday in Sao Paulo was very peaceful and very much a party-like atmosphere.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Is that you say there's a sort of mishmash of political objectives here. Is it also simply that people feel that the democratic government, which seemed to work for many people under the former president, Lula, just isn't working for them under his successor, Dilma?
I think that's right, and remember that Dilma has tried to, in some ways, cash in on these protests by, in fact, slipping in the slogan that's been chanted most often here, which is that Brazil has woken up. Very much a middle-class protest here that has seen their incomes increase substantially over the last decade, but the quality of public services haven't accompanied that growth.
Now, as we know, the Confederations Cup, the football, is going on. Many Brazilians are pretty football crazy, as we are here. Is that in jeopardy? And what about the World Cup next year?
Brazilians do like football, but a recent poll came out saying that one quarter of Brazilians couldn't care less about football. And many of the slogans being chanted yesterday were talking about the fact that they don't want the World Cup. Many Brazilians have said, why wasn't the World Cup given to somewhere else, perhaps England, where stadiums are already there? And given that this World Cup apparently is going to cost as much as the last 3 World Cups put together, there are a lot of people asking why that money isn't going into sorely needed public health and public education.
Ben, thanks very much for bringing us up to date. Ben Tavener there in Sao Paulo, the biggest city in Brazil, talking about those protests. Now, with the time